dream. My poor little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the...
Do we participate in a politics of cynicism, or do we participate in a politics of hope?
You can't be a world changer without being a changed man. Only changed people can change their world.
It has the power to inspire. It has the power to unite people in a way that little else does.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another exciting package of the Leadership Breakfast. And today's guest is absolutely exciting for me because he embodies the entire philosophy of what we do at the Leadership Breakfast. Leadership lessons from people who have been in the room where it all happens. Mr. Osita Chidoka is one who is from Anambra State. He's, as we speak, a Red Cap chief. With a degree in management, he began to walk into leadership circles at a very, very young age. He has gone on to be the Corps Marshal of the Nigerian Federal Road Safety Corps. He has gone on to be a Minister of the Federal Republic, specifically aviation, and of course he has a master's degree in transport, and he contested for the governor of his state, Anambra State, in the last elections. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
All right, now my first question would be, this is your home study, your home office, and when I walked into the office, I used to pride myself as someone who read. And we've heard a lot about the nexus between reading and leading. And I was overwhelmed by the sheer amount of books here. Testament to the fact that you've done a lot of reading in your leadership journey. And of course, one can testify to the fact that it's had a direct impact on the way that you've led. So my question would then be, is the fact that most leaders in Africa do not read a key nexus in between the shortfall in the quality of leadership that we have?
I don't know if we can make that assumption that our leaders don't read. I don't want to say things that are not empirically shown that our leaders don't read. We've had people, PhD level, people leading in Africa. We've had writers, Leopold Sedar Senghor, Nnamdi Azikiwe, Kwame Nkrumah, down to the current generations of the president of Cote d'Ivoire, Ouattara, is a World Bank director, you know. So we've had people who have come from very strong backgrounds in leading, but definitely somebody who do not read can't really be a great leader, because reading is like going into a lab. It's like being in a laboratory. Everything that you're likely going to experience in life, people have experienced it before. So when you read, you get perspectives, how people view circumstances that may confront you or that is confronting you. So reading is the ultimate laboratory for any leader.
Right.
Is the ultimate laboratory for any leader. Because as you read, you gain knowledge, you gain insight, you gain perspectives. One of the books that I saw so much perspective was Principles. It's Principles by the owner of Bridgewater Associates, Ray Dalio.
Right.
And he explained how he started his hedge fund and the things that made it work. And he itemized some principles that he felt made it possible for him to succeed, and then advocated that, you know, people can imbibe those principles. I'm also currently reading a book, Hot Seat, by Jeff Immelt, the former CEO of GE, General Electric, who after he inherited a very big corporation, GE. And in his own account, he says his tenure was at best controversial.
Right.
This is his own account of the mistakes he made, the failings he had with GE, and the macro environment that, you know, created the problems.
Right.
This is one of these autobiographies I've read that is not celebrating success, but saying, I didn't quite get it right, and this is the factors that led to it. So when you read books like that, it gives you perspectives. As you come to your daily job, you're able to begin to implement some of the things you've read. One of my guiding principles, one of the things that made me successful in Federal Road Safety Commission was reading. Because I constantly read McKinsey Quarterly. I constantly read the Financial Times of London, the New York Times. I read them every morning. And every day I see what people are doing across the world in various areas. It doesn't have to be in road safety. So when I developed the ideas of monitoring, of implementing, of focusing, these are some of the things I saw from reading the McKinsey Quarterly. In fact, I subscribed to the McKinsey Quarterly that they were mailing it to me in Nigeria, and I look forward to receiving the quarterly every quarter. For FT, luckily for me, I used to go to the airport when British Airways lands to get a copy of the FT. My drivers, I go to the airport to collect FT for me. And eventually,
that's the
Financial Times of London. Eventually went online, so I subscribed, and then I didn't need to get the hard copies anymore. And every time I read the FT, I see what chief executives are doing. I see how people are transforming the world, how innovation, how technology is changing the way we behave. So for now, I spend most of my time either reading or going on YouTube.
Right.
And YouTube I have found to be an amazing source of information. One of the information I learned recently, and I can't remember the name, it was my daughter that averted my mind to it, directed me to the site. The man talks about the impact of technology, how technology creates winners and losers, and how we can't just let technology to run amok. And one of the things I learned from listening to his videos is the fact that the alphabets, A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, were inventions. I've never thought of it as inventions. I thought they were just part of life. But he said there's nothing like A or B. If we had accepted C to be A, the figure C would have been A. If we had accepted to write it upside down, it would have been A. It's an invention. So, and that invention was the beginning of what led us to the written word, of what led us to the printing press. And that the printing press created a whole new dynamic, changed society, that multiple people were able to read books that were ordinarily left for the elites. And then from the printing press, we've gone on to the internet that has democratized information and created its own problems. So there is the hate, there is the issues.
Absolutely.
So what I advocate strongly is that anybody who wants to lead, anybody who wants to be a leader, must be a reader, because that is the only way you will understand where is the world going to, what are the next things coming up, and how can I situate myself in that global milieu.
Now, yes, I agree with you. You academics use empirical studies and all of that. But one of the books I'm reading right now is Barack Obama's The Promised Land. The Promised
Land. Yeah, yes, I read it in December.
Okay. I'm just reading it now. And he talked about the whole, where the whole is something sort of this, like in the second house thereabout,
yes,
where that was the only place he could read and do stuff, and he was always scattered. All right. Recently, you said that Nigeria's presidency should be zoned to the southeast. And so my thinking is, should leadership be determined by zoning or by capacity?
Both. Zoning is an affirmative action. Every affirmative action is you're doing it because you want to either right wrongs of the past or create a basis for engagement. So I think Nigeria is at that level of nation building where we need to give every part of Nigeria a sense of belonging. We will get past this stage when we will now be talking more about the competence. But if you say you've zoned it to the southeast, then you will choose the competent people in the southeast. You find who is the most competent, that will go. The idea being that democracy of winner takes all is very interesting and very good, but it has consequences.
Right.
Yes, it has consequences. And if you notice in the Middle Eastern countries after the Arab Spring, and they allowed popular elections, you saw that the parties that came to power created problems. Absolutely. The Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, in Iraq, that was the problem the Americans found out. That democracy is not just on itself, because the majority can begin to oppress the minority, and the minorities will resist, and it will normally lead to violence. But if you have a power sharing mechanism, a mechanism that allows everybody to feel equal stakeholder, then equal stake in the entity, then you will reduce the tension that comes with majority rule. And Nigeria has figured that out in saying you need to win not just popular votes, but 1/3 of the votes cast in 1/4 of the votes cast in at least 2/3 of the states in Nigeria. So you need 24 states. I mean, we introduced that because we wanted to create a system that allows for a pan-Nigerian president to emerge. So in doing that, you can get the largest number of votes, but if you don't win across the states, you will not be president. Why that restriction? Because we want to build a nation. Otherwise, the person who just wins the largest number of votes is the winner. It doesn't matter where the votes come from. But we matter where it comes from, because we want you to reflect Nigeria. So because of that, I think that the zoning that we have talked about is a consensus to be able for us to keep reflecting Nigeria in our leadership. And I'm sure after a while, we will outgrow that. People will see that, okay, it doesn't quite lead us to the solutions we want. We can allow any candidate from anywhere who has something to do for Nigerians to come up. But as at where we are today, I think we need to build a nation first. If we don't build that nation, there will be no elections and democracy as planned. I can assure you that the strife that will come into Nigeria will make it difficult for even the democracy to thrive. But I guess people will come to that realization as we go forward. But I strongly believe that the time has come for the country to go past its fears and look up to a new future.
Okay, now let me stay at the national level. We'll end with Anambra State. You were there at the final hours of former President Goodluck Jonathan. I've read different accounts of what happened that day. Yes, on all the accounts I've read, your name popped up, right? But what's your own vivid account of what happened? A lot of people have said you were the one who told the president to call. Some people said no, it was somebody else. The former president, in his book that I've read, said he necessarily wasn't listening to you or anybody, he was listening to you, the voices inside him. What's your own account of what exactly played out that day?
I think I will leave that to my own memoirs. Since people have written books about it, I will leave that to my memoirs, because I was present. So, and there are only one set of facts. There are no facts are facts. Stories are stories. Opinion can differ, but the facts are the same. I was there from the night to the morning and to the time when he called. I tweeted it to the world. So I was there when he spoke to Buhari. And he acknowledged in his book that I sought his permission and then tweeted it at 5:17 p.m. that day. I still remember very well. Was it 5:17 or 5:27 p.m.? But in all of that, I was present. So I will wait for my memoirs to tell my own side of the story. But the important thing is that President Jonathan is a great man. It was his decision to, concede. Nobody influenced him to concede. It was his decision. I only helped him in implementing it.
All right. Now, I wanted to ask, you were a key member of the Atiku Abubakar campaign organization in 2019. And this would dovetail into me asking you that what's the first thing that you tell a young man or young woman, as the case may be, who wants to go into politics? What apart from the general perception that, people feel, especially people in your party feel that something untoward went on, and of course you did go to court. What lessons did you pull out of that election vis-a-vis your own election to try to be governor of your state, and take that to all the young people who are saying they're angry, enters this and all that, want to go into politics, want to go into governance, what's the first thing you tell a young man that wants to do that?
First thing is that politics is not a game, serious business. So you have to apply yourself to it. It's not something you do from writing presentations. It's not something you do from abusing people or shouting on social media. It's something you do through compromise, through negotiation, through interaction, through consensus building, and through marketing. So it's a serious matter. It's like a corporation. You have to have the finance department, the marketing department, the what I call the business intelligence unit that keeps analyzing the data and keeps telling you whether you're on the right path or not. So I feel that most young people who want to go into politics, I always advise them to get involved in wherever they are, at whatever level, and see from other people's campaigns. Don't wait until you want to run. Go and participate in people's campaign, volunteer to campaign. Osif, the young man who just won the Senate seat in Georgia, as a student in Georgetown, volunteered to a senator and helped him set up his first Facebook page and did Facebook marketing for him. And I think he was a congressman, and the person won. So from that time, he has always remained engaged. So when it was his time, I think his fundraising was one of the biggest fundraisers ever done in the US. He raised more funds for a senatorial seat in recent times. I'm not sure of that data, but he raised quite a substantial amount of money, and he made it narrowly. A Democrat in a Republican state. So that tells you there is an opportunity for young people who have experience, who have knowledge. Don't go and wait and think that you will come on someday and bamboozle everybody. It's a process. It's like learning a trade. It's like learning how to be a banker. You can't join a bank and become an MD overnight. You go from marketing to credit to this unit, and you learn all the facets of banking. So once you begin to volunteer for campaigns, you see what we did right, what we did wrong, and how do we correct it when you're running your own. So it's something that I said requires apprenticeship. So if I were a young person today, I'll be volunteering for a campaign. I'm looking around. If I was a young person from Anambra today, I would have joined one of the candidates, aspirants, volunteer to participate, to run either the marketing side of things or the organizational side of things, so that you learn, so that when you decide I want to run, you know where to start from and how to go. So,
okay,
last question.
I totally agree with that because in 2006 I walked into the room of a candidate who was contesting for elections, and I said to him that I wanted to volunteer to handle his media. And so we see a lot of that as well. Just in the book that we both read, in Obama's book, a lot of young people volunteered in that campaign.
Yes.
In Nigeria, we have a mentorship culture in literally almost everything. In trade, which the Igbos are good at. My master, just like you said, in banking, you don't get into banking and then become the MD next day. Why is it that, and I mean, you go to the US in Congress, you go to the UK in Parliament, MPs have young people come as, why is there this gap between people in positions and young people? If for instance, you say young people are not coming around, is it bad for those leaders to identify young people and then pick them up and say, I want to mentor you? What I'm asking is, you started out in the corridors of leadership at a very young age, almost out of university. And I know that, for some reason, you probably may have met some of those people, but they also did identify the fact that this is a young man who has a lot of brains and talents, and I want to mentor him. So why is it that people in leadership are not identifying young talents to mentor?
Well, I don't know if it is people in leadership that should be identifying them. But what I tell young people is that nobody is going to go around looking for you. You have to make yourself available. So I was greatly mentored by people, very much older people. And in each case, I took myself, I walked up to them and I said, I want to do X, Y with you. I want to volunteer to do work for you or write speeches or do whatever. And that led to the relationships and the network I had, today. So I think that any young man who wants a public service career should step out of his comfort zone and go meet up. And today they're even luckier. In our days, there were no House of Reps, House of Assembly members. So even working with a House of Assembly member, and you may even take a pay cut. I took pay cuts to get, close to where I was heading to, because the problem I see with most young people today is that they come with the idea of, money and what they will get from it. Yes, what you will get is important, but being able to have the access and that training it's incalculable. The benefit is incalculable. I told people 10 years after I left my boss, Chief Madekwe, as personal assistant. I left him in 2003. 11 years after, 2014, I was minister myself. Because I wasn't focusing on going back to be a PA on that. I knew that when I was working with him, I knew I wanted to be a minister myself. So after we finished his first term, I left for school in the US. With all the little resources I had, I left to the US and then studied, came back, and I became Corps Marshal and started going. So my point is, don't think about the immediate. Think about your strategic goal. You want to go to the House of Reps yourself. You want to be a senator. You want to be a House of Assembly member. You want to start from local government. Join the process. Look for that person in your locality who is in the National Assembly. So let's say the man says, I've taken all my legislative aids. I don't have a space. Okay. Can I be a volunteer? I won't work full time, but I will be joining in doing X, Y, Z for you. If you have transport monies to give me, that will help. But if not, I can work online. Today, people can.
I have a dream. My 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the...
Do we participate in a politics of cynicism, or do we participate in a politics of hope?
You can't be a world changer without being a changed man. Only changed people can change their world.
It has the power to inspire. It has the power to unite people in a way that little else does.